Oh no.
And along Sandy Boulevard there, where the wind blows down the river, it gets really icy, and I got out there on black ice with like little pieces of styrofoam
Yeah.
at me. And by the time I got down to Powell coming back home, it was terrible. And Dad said, "You're not going to be able to get up our hill to the house
Jeez.
the way it was." But
Was it a convention that had any stars or guest speaker? Or
I
just
think
kind of,
so, but I just went in. I didn't pay to go into the convention. I just stayed in the outer corridor where
Okay.
they were selling all of their
Yeah.
merchandise.
Well, you notice that it's literally. I think a Star Trek convention is literally designed to bleed Trekkies financially dry. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
phasers are like $70. The
Sure.
autographs, and of course, I want every single piece that I see in there. I want the phasers. I want the communicators, the costumes. So if you don't go prepared,
I remember, was that a communicator you had, that little wooden thing or something that was a homemade?
oh yes,
Jobby.
I'm pretty sure that before
It
we
was
bought
like a flip phone, only it was
that's
made
a
out of
communicator.
wood.
That's a communicator.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
right,
It was
right.
like made out of wood.
Who else was doing anything quite like that at the time? And gave, a place for, a black lady in charge and an Asian man in the position that he was in. For the time, right.
And
I wouldn't-
we were barely talking to the Russians. We were not out
Yeah.
with the Russians, and they had a Russian, at the helm as well.
Right. I forgot Chekhov. Yeah. So, it was kind of symbolistic of what was kind of coming together with races at the time, too. I don't often think of that. I think more of Uhura's role as a woman
Yes.
doing that with her, and being African American, and it created a legacy. It kind of like paved a way for all the kind of sci-fi stuff later to come. I feel bad that I didn't really see Patrick Stewart in the same light as I would later, because I thought, I like Kirk. He's bold, he's brash, he's not, really that meditative type of captain who deliberates and is cool and calm-headed, Yeah, he was just like, I'll deck a couple Klingons and we're going to take those big risks. We're going to warp out here, spin it around, But, he's a totally different kind of captain, He's thoughtful. Kirk was much more impulsive, and when I first saw Patrick Stewart in that role, I went, well, this is kind of milquetoast type of, I don't know. And I had to warm up to the characters a bit, but definitely ended up liking it better than the old series. I haven't really watched Deep Space Nine that much, or haven't watched Enterprise and Voyager at all.
And some of my favorite characters, I love the idea of Data from Next Generation. I think he's fantastic, and Spock is my all-time favorite. I often try and think, what would be logical to do in this situation that I'm currently in, and I just think that the Vulcans are just a really fascinating type of creature. So I love them.
I also recall a particular instance when I met the actor who played Q on Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and also Voyager. And he held the line of, when you go to a convention, they have a line of people wanting their autographs and whatnot. But he held it up because my mother had made a costume so convincing and so beautiful that he asked where we had attained the fabrics and the pattern and how long it took. And we sat there and had a real conversation. And for a young man, that made the impossible real. It really did. And from that point on, I just stopped listening to people who said I couldn't do something. I was like, try and stop me. Try. And meeting Marina Sirtis and Jimmy Doohan and Armin Shimmerman, I mean, it made the future real in a way, even though it wasn't. But it gave me hope, and I think that was that was the intent, and they succeeded. And for that, I'm grateful.
Obviously, Star Trek has changed all of our lives in technology. If you think about Captain Kirk, even from the 60s show, when they bring in that little, basically what is now called an iPad. I mean, do you realize that, like, kind of a lot of the technology that we have right now, like iPhones and all of that stuff, literally Captain Picard's preparing a speech on what's basically like an iPhone 6, okay? Like, technology has modeled itself a lot after Star Trek.
It was predicted, though, that it was going to be possible. So all they had to do was imagine what it was going to look like.
Yeah. But here's the thing that I find hilarious about Star Trek, though. So they're in the 24th century, right? We're supposed to have intergalactic peace treaties, but all their chairs are from Office Max. Literally, like every single chair that the Enterprise crew is sitting on, literally you can see like the tag or the lever that it's from Office Max. It's crazy, like... And the other thing that I find, you were saying something about in the bloopers, you can really tell how cheap some of the props are.
Now, I've noticed I've not seen any bloopers outside of a convention.
Okay.
This is like secret knowledge that we paid for. I don't know, are you really allowed to share this on your radio show?
Well, no, they did tell us at the convention that anytime an actor or a stunt person gets phased or whatever and they go flying, that phaser, whatever they have on their body, is just plastic. It's not an actually working unit because they don't want their good props getting banged up by an actor getting flung across the room. So if they do a close-up on a tricorder, like Dr. Crusher, like, oh my god, you've got this, like they'll have the working one for her close-up, but if they're going to fling her across the room, they're going to give her the dud.
Sure. But, you know, in the 80s and 90s, grocery stores had doors that slide open when you step on a pad.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, they literally had people moving those doors.
Oh, some of the best Star Trek outtakes is like Data and Riker walking and the thing doesn't open and they smack head first into it. It's great. It's great.
But
yes, because there's
stores
crew
could
people.
afford an actual door that slid open. What's the big problem?
Yeah, but if you look at behind the scenes stuff where you can tell that just behind it is all plywood, like they only make it look camera ready from one side. I mean, it's a set. And the other thing is that big view screen, that big beautiful view screen, just a big blue screen, so that when they're standing there looking at it like, oh my god, the Nova Star blew up and the stellar intermatter is coming towards us. No.
Whoa, wait a second here. You went and visited the set. You were on the bridge.
Okay. Full disclosure, the bridge that I was on was at the Las Vegas experience in 2005. That wasn't the actual set. That was like a recreation.
They didn't bring real parts?
You know what? You know what the computers looked like to me? It looked like somebody cut out really fancy bits and put it on the light board, like a light bright.
Oh!
Basically, the Enterprise computer is a fancy light bright.
I believe it.
And I think that everything from flip phones to sliding doors at department stores and communicators, I mean, that all came from Star Trek. So I don't know where our world would be today without some of Gene Roddenberry's and all those other creators' thoughts about that type of technology.
A lot of folks have noticed that Star Trek science fiction technology used in both the original series, Next Generation, and so forth helped define real technology that's in our lives. So I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, and I love how sci-fi is constantly exploring those things. It's futurism, you know? They're trying to figure out, just like some of these things like Shadowrun, you know, that tabletop game where it's like, well, you know, you could have an adrenal pump, they could have, or rifts, you know, we could have interdimensional beings coming in and doing different things. I mean, it's kind of some of that same mentality that, you know, they had a drawing board where they constantly were exploring what the variations would be between both the personalities of the characters and what could be future technology, you know, and then we see people with that. It's like Minority Report. You see the little flexible pieces of, you know, they're reading their paper on a little flexi thing, and now they're looking at electrowetting and how that might be possible to do. We already have Kindles, you know, so we're reading books on, you know, kind of these plates almost, these electronic plates.
Well, the other thing is that if you look at the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk doing his Captain's log, it's basically an iPad. I mean, technology has literally kind of modeled what Star Trek did in a lot of ways. The other thing that I think is hilarious, if you look at any of the series, they get their chairs at Office Max. I mean, they're in the 23rd and the 24th century, right? And they're literally having a conference meeting, and their chairs are like from Office Max. You literally can see the release on them, and I've always gotten a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Who's the character who lost the finger?
Okay, so Dad says that Scotty was in the beaches of the actor. Jim Doohan was literally on the beaches of Normandy and lost a finger, and so he claims that Scotty never shows part of his left hand anytime. I've never really noticed. They must have been very skillful about that.
You can find a photo of him holding some kind of a ray gun with his finger obviously missing.
Okay. So, yes, this is the 50th anniversary of the original Star Trek, so there's been 6 Star Trek series, 13 movies, and now they're launching Star Trek Discovery.
13 movies.
13 movies between the original series, which did 6, 4 for the Next Generation, and then now the J.J. Abrams reboot has done 3. So, yes, 50 years of Star Trek.
Wow.
And they're going to launch Star Trek Discovery, a new series.
If they mated, was a question that was asked to me. What characters would I think would make the most interesting mating couple? I don't know. I almost think like it almost happened, but Data and then the chick who was in charge of the Borg. Like that would have totally been like a revolutionary left turn in the Star Trek saga. But I don't know. Maybe Spock and like Captain Kirk's daughter or something like that. Something kind of crazy to mix the world of Spock and Kirk kind of on a more of a family.
I would take Data and mix him up with Odo, the shapeshifter.
Really?
I'd like to see what happens. Of course, they're both guys, so it wouldn't work. But Odo can change into anything, right?
So Queen. I mean, they made it.
Right. I mean, he's fully functional or whatever, and a certain reproductive.
Fully functional to me implies fully functional.
Yeah, he could consummate the act. I don't know if there would be a procreative ability too. I don't know if Dr. Sung is really that good, but or what the purpose of it would be. But maybe
So an android.
He gets it like the emotion chip or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe they could redesign Data. Maybe he gets upgrades, But there's really no one seems to be around to really.
Like every time Apple launches a new bit,
Data
S, Data S,
new and improved.
Data Plus
6.0. Yeah. Yeah, well, and they did improve him. He got that emotion chip, and then there was Lau, right? So, I mean, they kind of did some variations off the android, but I think it was good to have that character. That was a tough one to play as a character, and he really comes into his own later in the Next Generation.
So, like 6 television series, 13 films, and now they're launching Star Trek Discovery in January. So a brand new series. Supposedly it's set before Captain Kirk's time. Very little is known. There's going to be an openly gay character, but we don't know very much about Discovery.
It should be good. I mean,
yeah, it's got a long legacy.
I definitely have a beef with, was it called Enterprise?
Enterprise, yeah.
I mean, they can't just put any garbage out there, and as a Star Trek fan, I'd be happy. No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm a friend of Mr. Carmody. I've known him for several years now. And we share a passion for Star Trek, and bless them for having celebrated their 50th anniversary. I mean, that's longer than either one of us have been alive, and it's amazing that it's become so many incarnations, so many series, so many films, and it continues with Discovery debuting in January of next year. What I see as a future for Trek, what I hope for a future for Trek to be, is a continuation of pulling back the layers of social commentary and exploring those, and an examination of ourselves, even from the future. I think we need that. So, to you all who are listening, may we boldly go and live long and prosper.
You've been listening to Gay News Radio on the GNR Radio Network. Download our mobile app for iPhone and Android today. And have a good gay.